exhausted. I never had an opportunity to review what I said. I was sitting in a room at a table with two people, one who knew my daughter.
Let me stop you there.
Well, I'm going to let her explain her answer. Go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One who knew my daughter for over 15 years as her brother-in-law, knew how much she loved him.
At this point in time, Mr. Greenberg, I hate to cut you off, but I'm going to let you explain your answer, but at this point, you're going into some other issues. Next question.
I simply wanted to explain that I was intimidated.
Well, I understand that. But at this point, next question.
Okay. You felt intimidated when you gave that deposition?
Yes, I did.
All right. What's your educational background, Mrs. Greenberg? What is your educational background? You have a PhD, don't you?
I do.
Do you consider yourself to be an educated person?
I do.
What was your profession prior to your retirement?
I was a university professor.
Okay.
What did you teach?
Communication disorders, speech pathology.
She's with you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you have concerns? You testified about your concerns as a result of the email. Did you have concerns about your email being compromised in some way?
My email?
Your email. Do you have an email address?
I do.
Did you in November and December of 2010?
I did.
If you had concerns as a result of Mr. Newman's email to Andrea, why didn't you communicate with the police about your concerns?
I felt that we were in Florida for one purpose, and I knew that Andrea would go to the police as soon as we returned home and talk with them about this.
How serious would you say your concerns were as a result of the email?
Something didn't sound right. That's all I knew.
And you didn't immediately report the information or your suspicions to the police?
I had no idea what it was that I was concerned about. There was a feeling that I had that something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was.
Did you have any evidence that Mr. Newman was monitoring Andrea's whereabouts?
Well, it seemed strange that if we were in Florida and we had told no one we were going, that he too wound up in Florida.
Florida's a big state, isn't it?
Yes.
Were you aware at the time that Mr. Newman had family in Florida?
No.
Did you have anything other than the fact of the email as you described it to the jury today to make you concerned about Mr. Newman at that point?
The friends that told Andrea that Mr. Newman was in Florida, I believe told her where he was.
And where was he, to your recollection?
In Boca Raton.
And where were you?
In West Palm Beach.
So your answer is, outside the fact of the email, that Mr. Newman's presence in the same state caused you concern?
It made me uncomfortable.
At that time that you became uncomfortable, did you have any specific idea or suspicions about why Mr. Newman would murder Rusty?
Absolutely not.
Because you didn't have any information to that point that Mr. Newman had a motive, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I want to direct your attention, but before I move on, When did you return from Florida?
Over New Year's weekend.
Okay, and that's 2010 going into 2011?
Correct.
And who returned with you?
Our daughter Andrea and our 2 grandchildren, my husband.
And your husband, when you say "our," you mean your husband?
Yes.
Upon your return over New Year's weekend, end of December, beginning of January 2011, did you go to the police with your suspicions?
Could we go back a moment?
You may.
No.
If you need to answer a question, you may, go back. If you need to answer an earlier question, go ahead. To explain something.
I'd like to explain why we were in Florida.
Well, I don't know if she didn't ask that question. So you can't answer a question that wasn't asked.
All right. Or why I knew that Andrea could go to the police. We had one purpose in being there, and that was to be there for December 30th.
Mr. Goldberg, 1 second. I will allow you, if you need to go back to addressing the question that she had asked, I will allow you to do that, but
Okay.
you have to respond to her questions, okay? You may continue.
Thank you.
Ms. Cross.
When you returned to Atlanta, did you immediately go to the police with your suspicions?
No, Andrea did.
At that time, had an arrest been made?
No,
To your knowledge, was there a suspect?
no.
How many days after you got back from Florida did Andrea go to the police?
I don't remember the exact date, 2 days.
You think it was about 2 days?
Yes,
Could it have been as many as 4?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you yourself go to the police?
I did not.
Why not?
My husband went.
Your husband went with Andrea
Yes,
when she went to the police?
yes,
And it was that your understanding that Andrea was going to tell them about the email?
absolutely.
And was it your understanding that Andrea was going to tell them about your family's suspicions about Mr. Newman?
There were no family suspicions.
You were suspicious, weren't you?
No, I was concerned.
Thank you. Was it your understanding that Andrea was going to tell the police about your family's concerns about Mr. Newman?
Yes,
Specifically the email?
I believe so.
Mrs. Greenberg, I want to direct your attention to November 18th, 2010. How did you learn that something had happened to Rusty?
Our daughter Andrea called my husband.
Let me see, were you on the phone when she called him the first time?
No, I was in bed.
Okay. Were you, without telling me what anybody else said, were you able to hear your husband's part of the conversation?
No,
Okay. Did there come a time when, without telling me what he said, your husband came and told you something that Andrea had relayed to him?
yes.
Okay. And then what did you do as a result of that?
I put some clothes on and got into the car.
Where were you going?
Dunwoody Prep.
Okay. At that time, did you know what happened to Rusty?
I knew that something had happened to Rusty.
Did you know specifically what had happened to Rusty?
No,
Did you know he had been shot at that time?
no.
All right. Who got into the car with him?
My husband?
Anybody else?
No.
How long of a drive is it from your home? Were you living in Roswell at that time?
We were.
Okay. How long of a drive is it from Roswell to, where were you going?
Dunwoody Prep?
Dunwoody Prep. Did you know Dunwoody Prep?
Yes.
Okay. And you knew the location as what?
I beg your
How were you familiar with it?
We'd been there numerous times because it was where our children had gone to preschool.
Okay.
Our grandchildren had gone to preschool.
Okay. And how long of a drive was it from your home to Dunwoody Prep?
Under normal conditions or that day?
Both.
Probably 20 minutes normally. I think we were there in much less time.
Do you know what time Andrea called you? Or called your husband?
9:15?
And what time did you arrive at the daycare?
somewhere around 9:30.
What, if anything, were you doing in the car ride on the way there?
I was on the phone with our daughter.
Can you describe to the jurors what her demeanor was?
She was hysterical.
What was she telling you?
Something's happened to Rusty. Nobody will tell me what. I can't get there fast enough. Something's happened to Rusty.
What was your understanding of what Andrea was doing at the time she was talking to you?
She was driving her car
From where to where?
from her place of employment to Dunwoody Prep.
Do you know where her place of employment was?
I don't
Okay.
exactly.
You've never been there?
No, I'd not.
Okay. Who got to the daycare first, you or Andrea?
We were on the phone together. I talked her through the entire trip there.
What was your demeanor like?
I was trying to stay as calm as I could so that I could keep her calm.
Was she calm?
She was hysterical. I continued to talk her through, and I said, listen to me. I don't want you to have an accident. You have to continue to talk to me.
Your concerns were for her safety as she was driving?
Absolutely.
Okay. Who got to the daycare first, you or Andrea?
She got there just minutes before we did, because I kept talking to her until she pulled into the Dunwoody Prep area. She started screaming. She said, there's crime tape all around. I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's happened. And I kept saying, stay calm. And our communication ended.
At the time your communication ended, had you arrived yet at the daycare?
I could hear Andrea screaming because her phone was in her car, and we had just about pulled up.
At that time, at the time that your phone communication with Andrea stopped, did you know that Rusty had been shot?
No,
Did Andrea say anything to you that indicated Rusty had been shot?
no.
How long were you at the daycare?
Possibly 15 minutes total,
Did you find Andrea there?
eventually. We were told to go home.
Don't tell me what anybody else told you yet. Okay? Please don't tell me. I'll ask you where you went and why. Please don't tell me what anybody told you. I'm going to ask you during the time that you were at Dunwoody Prep, how and when did you find Andrea?
We left the scene of the crime and drove around to the back of Dunwoody Prep looking for our daughter.
You didn't see her when you arrived and got out of the car?
No.
Okay. What did you see?
Crime scene tape,
What else?
helicopters flying all over,
What else?
Rusty's car.
Was there any ambulance there?
No,
Did you see Rusty there?
no.
You were telling me you drove your car around to the back. Is that where you found Andrea?
Yes,
And how long can you estimate for me you were at the daycare before you found Andrea?
$5 minutes, 8 minutes.
Did you go in the daycare?
No,
Did someone bring Andrea out to you?
Andrea was out behind Dunwoody Prep near the dumpsters.
When you pulled up, she was already there?
When we went to find her,
Were you in the car or out of the car when you first saw her?
we were in the car.
Okay. And what did you do when you were in the car and you saw Andrea?
Stopped the car, I got out and went to our daughter.
Okay. Was she standing alone?
No, she was in the arms of someone else.
Do you know who that person was?
I'm not sure who that person was.
Was it a male or a female?
Female.
Was it someone who was dressed in a police uniform or not?
No, it was someone, I believe, associated with Dunwoody Prep.
Okay, it appeared to be someone who might have worked there?
Correct.
Okay. What did Andrea say to you at the time?
Andrea was hysterical.